man versus mountain again for the 73rd running of the Chevrolet Pikes Peak Auto Hill Climb. Back in the 1800s, when Zebulon Montgomery Pike first looked at this mountain, he said it would never be scaled. For the first time in the 73-year history of the Chevrolet Pikes Peak Auto Hill Climb, his words are prophetic. Hello again, everybody. I'm Marty Reed, and the mountain is closed. That's right. We will not go to the top of the mountain today. We'll fall 3 miles short of the 14,110 feet. The weather has been just abysmal for 6 days straight. I know what you're saying. Down here at the starting line, sunshine. It's kind of nice. Why are we racing up top? Well, let's go to my partner, Bart Kendall, where he can explain it best. Way up there.
Well, Marty, I've made it down from the summit here at Devil's Playground at 16 Mile, and boy, what a ride it was. It was scary for me. And the reason they moved this race, or the finish of this race down here, see the finish right behind me, the road conditions are a little better here, but when I was driving down, there was ice, my tires were locking up, I was white-knuckling it, and it was scary for me, I tell you, just in a rental car going 15, 20 miles an hour. These drivers might be brave, they might be courageous, but they're not stupid. We'll finish it right here this year.
Let's show you the race course. It starts all the way down at 9,390 feet. And Bart, take us all the way up from there.
Well, as they race away from the starting line, they'll be racing in mainly tree-lined areas. You'll see that first thing, they'll come by the checkpoint we refer to as the ski area. Then they'll go up at the next checkpoint we commonly refer to as Glen Cove. After that, it's up through the W's where they switch back and forth. And there you see Devil's Playground, where we will finish the race this year. But as you move past Devil's Playground on the map, you see you go all the way up to the top of the mountain over the back side at 14,110 feet, which is normally the finish of this race.
So just over 3 miles of the race course will not be traversed today. And you want to see how slippery it was. This is video of Bart trying to do his original stand-up to give us an idea of just how slippery it is up top. Take a look at the weather conditions down at the base of the mountain, 58 degrees, 28 at the summit, and look at the difference in winds. 12 miles at the starting line, 40 miles an hour up top, and yes, we still have a chance for bad weather to roll in. Speaking of bad weather, this is the first day of practice. That is Robbie Unser in his super stock truck.
Hey, you see what they do, the officials do, is they divide practice up into 3 different sections. You never run the whole race course until race day. So here on this day with the rain and the fog and the mud, they're just going on one portion of the racetrack, so when they go to the second day, they're not quite sure what track conditions to expect. Here we are still on the first day, and you can see conditions are just awful.
Now this was day 2. Everybody woke up to a snowstorm. Doesn't it snow where you are in the late days of June? Well, the top section of the course was closed. This was the mid portion at Glen Cove, and only 4 cars made it up before they shut down practice altogether. Some of the drivers talked about it.
The car would dig through it, but it wouldn't stop. And not stopping when you're on the W's is not a fun thing to do.
Well, I mean, you can ask people all over the United States. Mother Nature's starting to bite us. And up here, she's giving us a heck of a wallop.
Well, the track conditions were snowy and muddy and lousy, and normally we don't have that situation in the middle of July. We have had rain before, but I've never had 2 or 3 inches of snow to race in.
When it came for day 3 of practice, there was more snow. In fact, blizzard conditions, 28-degree temperatures, 50-mile-an-hour winds. It shut down the top portion of the race course again. Finally, when it came time for qualifying, the sun came out, but the drivers were rusty. In fact, course conditions were dramatically different than we had at this time last year, Bart.
Well, you see, this is Wally Dallenbach heading up the mountain. Everything looks nice. It's nice and sunny. It's dry. But watch what happens to Wally here as he goes around this corner. He makes a fabulous save, keeping the car out of the ditch. But what's happening here, because we had all the snow and the rain, we still have a very loose substance on the track, making it still very treacherous.
There was a special 5th day of practice where drivers finally got to practice on the top section. But as you know, the weather has now rolled back in. And for the first time in 73 years, we will not race to the summit of Pikes Peak. But they will not stop the racing action as we're getting ready for Super Stock Truck. That is Leonard Baschultz, the defending champion in this division. The man who wants to take the title away from him, that is Robbie Unser. We'll have that action for you when we come back to the Chevrolet Pikes Peak Auto Hill Climb. Today's ESPN Speed World event is brought to you by Chevrolet. One car company has won more races in the history of NASCAR. Genuine Chevrolet. Marty Reed and Bart Kendall back with you, and that is Robbie Unser. And look at the eyes of concentration as he is getting ready to make his attempt here at the Chevrolet Pikes Peak Auto Hill Climb. Let's show you some of the other competitors that have already made their way up the mountain. the 6th fastest qualifier, Greg Stingray, he crossed the finish line in 10 minutes, 21.8 seconds.
Here you take a look at the Chevrolet of David Schmidt, and David went up the mountain, had a pretty good run. He ended up finishing in 10 minutes, 40.2 seconds.
Then after David Schmidt made his run, the 4th fastest qualifier was Brett Peterson. Now, Peterson made his run and really became the leader at this point at 10 minutes, 1.9 tenths of a second. So it was a very good jump for Brett Peterson as he knocked off 20 seconds from then leader Greg Stingray.
Now you take a look at the Chevrolet of Dean Burling, and Dean, as you see, nearing the top of the mountain, had a fabulous run, and at the finish he barely nipped Brett Peterson by just over a second. But I think both these guys knew that the real race was coming up between Leonard Baschholz and Robbie Unser.
So as of now, Dean Burling is the leader.
Here's a look at super stock truck rules. Basically, a stock frame allows you 7.5 pounds per cubic inch. Custom frame, you have to add a little more weight, 8.5 pounds a cubic inch.
And here comes 2nd fastest qualifier, Leonard Baschholz in his Ford. He has the custom frame, so Leonard from Woodland Park, Colorado, has to run the extra weight. Robbie Unser is the stock frame. So the green flag flies and Leonard Baschholz is underway. He takes the actual official start right around this corner. The clocks start right there at the banner, and we'll find out what this race course is like.
Yeah, this will give you folks at home a real good idea to see what these drivers do as they head up the mountain. You see Leonard in his truck just hanging it out all the way to the edge of the track. And basically, the racetrack is a lot different than last year. Last year, you had almost rubber being laid down to give you a hard, almost concrete-like substance out there. Now you look, see how Leonard really has to correct on the exit there. There's a lot of loose stuff on the track. These guys are hanging it out. They're very rarely straight anytime up the racetrack.
So who's going to have the advantage? Leonard in his heavier vehicle, or will it be Robbie Unser in his lighter vehicle?
Well, that remains to be seen. Tire wear actually still might be a factor here. With a heavier vehicle, you're putting a little more stress on the tires, whereas the lighter vehicle that Robbie's driving might make the tires a little more durable near the end of the race.
All right, let's sit back and let you take a little bit of the ride with Leonard Baschholz. Coming up on the area known as Halfway Picnic Grounds, 105 miles an hour for Leonard Baschholz. That's flying.
That is really flying, especially in a truck. You see here, he's leaving nothing in the bag. He's really hanging it out sideways, back and forth on the switchbacks.
Meanwhile, back at the starting line, top qualifier Robbie Unser. On board with him now as you get a look at Robbie from Albuquerque, New Mexico. He has won 6 championships here at Pikes Peak.
And the interesting thing about this year for Robbie is the organizers have made everyone choose one class to drive in. Robbie in the past has driven multiple classes. Last year he drove 2. This year he's focusing on the trucks, so I think that focus might help him.
Less than 2 seconds separated Robbie and Leonard in qualifying. And this truck, I mean, this is an exotic design.
Yeah, this is not your basic pickup truck. This is a V8 aluminum bore block head, methanol alcohol fuel with the Gen 3 engine management system that Chevrolet is so proud of. And it's lightweight, it's built with carbon fiber on the outside, and you can see how light it is in Robbie's hands as he works his way up the mountain.
The other unique thing about this element as we watch Robbie flying through these corners is Roger Mears Racing has built this truck. So it's the first time in history where the Mears gang has teamed up with the Unser family, and it has been a formidable combination.
Yeah, usually on Pikes Peak you have the traditional battle, Unser versus Mears, and only one time in history, way back in the 70s, did Bobby Unser team up with Roger Mears, but that was way back in a desert race in Nevada. So they've teamed up here at Pikes Peak. Should be a real formidable combination.
Oh, and he's slower through the Halfway Picnic Grounds. Leonard Baschholz was quicker by 4 miles an hour.
Yeah, Leonard had a little more top-end speed, but Robbie's truck seems to be handling pretty well through the corners here, so we'll see how that translates up top.
Let's check in with Leonard Baschholz. The time to beat on the left in the new split time. Boy, Leonard is 8 seconds quicker than his qualifying time, so that means the road conditions much better in this lower section.
They're definitely better, but there still has to be a question in these guys' mind. They haven't driven the whole racetrack all week, and they haven't driven it in conditions like this, so it's still a learning experience even during the race.
So Leonard Baschholz shatters the mark set by Dean Burling through the halfway section of the race course at Glen Cove. And now into the W's, and this is where it gets mighty treacherous. If you go off the edge, you're going to drop an awfully long way. Take a look over the edge. Ooh.
That is scary. But someone like Leonard has been up this hill many times. He's an 8-time champion. But I tell you, he's really having to call on all his experience now.
All right, the time to beat on the left is Leonard at 5:20.9, and Robbie is not going to do it. Unser is behind, 5:21.4.
That's only a half a second, and Robbie seems to be under control right now. I noticed that Leonard was real squirrely up in the W's, so Robbie still has a chance here. It's going to be tight regardless of who wins.
All right, let's watch the onboard action here. He's really hacksawing that wheel.
He really is. He's working it back and forth, and now I think Robbie says to himself, now is the time to go. I've made it up through the first half of the track. I really got to hang it out here.
Let's sit back and go along for the ride. Back with Leonard Baschholz as he works his way through the W's on this race course. He has won this division last year. He's also won 8 stock car titles in his career. But again, as you mentioned, cannot run 2 divisions this year because the rules do not permit it.
And this provides us with a very, very good battle. You have 2 of the most accomplished drivers in the history of Pikes Peak, and Leonard Baschholz and Robbie Unser. And you can see Leonard here. He is really hanging it out. I mean, look at the back end come out right there. He is leaving nothing to chance here.
Oh, and he is going to shatter the time to beat of Dean Burling, as this is the finish line area at Devil's Playground by a minute. 9 minutes and 9/10 of a second. So now the pressure is on. Robbie Unser has to make it up in this top portion of the race course. Look at the view down from way up above as he makes his way into the lower portion of the W's.
Now riding along with Robbie Unser, this is what it looks like for him. He is really flying here, and I tell you, it takes courage. Oh, that's an example of it right there. He actually points the truck to the left, flicks it back to the right, allowing him to flick the back end around and get around that tight corner. And I tell you, it's moves like that that allow these guys to be champions up here.
Robbie Unser approaching the top portion of the W's now as he makes his way towards the finish line. He'll have 2 more turns to negotiate. Watch the way he pitches it around.
Yeah, right here, Robbie is really hanging it out. He knows that it's close. Every time he's raced with Leonard in the past, it's been a close battle. So this year, he's really leaving nothing to chance. He told me, I'm going for it. This is the only truck I'm racing this year. I want to win this one.
Look at the road conditions. Time to beat on the left. It's going to be close. Robbie Unser, can he do it? Can he take the championship away from Leonard Baschholz? Yes, 8:58.2 as Robbie Unser by 2.7 seconds takes the win here at the Chevrolet Pikes Peak Hill Climb in the Super Stock Truck Division. So there's the top 5 and the margin of difference on the right-hand side. Let's go down to, or should I say up to victory lane.
Okay, you're looking at Robbie Unser, winner of the Super Truck Division. He reversed his fortunes of a year ago, just edging out Leonard Baschholz by a few seconds. And as he's taking the helmet off, we'll get a quick word with him. How was it, Robbie?
It wasn't bad. The road is definitely a little bit adverse today, and we just kept the truck straight and kept it moving. You know, we knew Leonard was going to be real close. He always is. He's an excellent competitor. I just really want to thank God for making it a safe day and for everything happening the way it has. And take my hat off to Roger Mears Racing and all the people at Chevrolet and Con & Co., DuPont, Mitchell International, and all my sponsors. I'm super happy to have them with me. And again, I just want to thank God for having us up here again, and hope everybody else has a safe run.
Well, there is Gay Smith as he is at the base of the mountain, and he is top qualifier in Super Stock Car, and he is moving to the front of the line. We'll explain why when we come back to the Chevrolet Pikes Peak Auto Hill Climb from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Back at the Chevrolet Pikes Peak Auto Hill Climb, Marty Reed along with Bart Kendall, and you can see the rain starting to roll in as we get a view from the top of the mountain. Now, as fast qualifier, you have the choice of either running last and knowing what your competition is doing ahead of you, or you have the choice to go first. Now, Gay Smith in Super Stock Car has decided to take the top position and go first. Here's what it's all about.
Here's Super Stock Car. You see it has to be 1989 to 1995, a V6 or a V8. These are exciting. These guys drive it sideways all the way up the mountain.
So Gay Smith, who has wanted to win this Super Stock Car division, will go first, and they're waiting to find out a last-minute weather report from up top. Now, Gay is from right here in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and he was the fast qualifier at 5 minutes, 27.06 seconds. And he is off and running here at the Chevrolet Pikes Peak Auto Hill Climb.
Well, I think there was also some question here as to Gay's decision. People were waiting to see if it panned out. Basically what he wanted to do, he looked upstairs, saw the clouds moving in. He felt if he could put a good run in, maybe if the weather moved in and rained and made the track a little more treacherous, then that decision would pay off for him.
Well, what it really means also is if Bobby Register, defending champion and second fastest qualifier, will run last, that means he'll run actually 15th, as there are 15 competitors. Now here's Gay Smith through the halfway picnic grounds at a good speed, 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, Gay is going. He has a pretty good run going so far. He hasn't made any major mistakes. It remains to be seen what his time is, but I think the differing track conditions has left a little question in his mind. You see the split time coming up in the lower portion of your screen, 5:35.2, and that is 8 seconds slower than his qualifying. So Gay is a little conservative down at the bottom. I think he needs to go a little faster up top if he wants to win this.
Oh, and getting a little sideways there. Take a look at the rain clouds off in the distance. You can actually see the rain coming down from this altitude, and it's closing in on the mountain. So this may turn out to be the right decision, although the advantage of going last, Bart, is that more drivers on the road obviously take off more marbles and get a harder packed surface.
Yeah, because of the track conditions we're dealing with, you see the loose stuff being pushed out there as Gay goes up the mountain. I think the harder the track goes and the more cars that go on it, if we don't get weather, you still will have the advantage if you go last.
So now the gamble is Gay Smith is going to lay down the time. Oh, getting sideways again. So Gay Smith is going to set the early mark at 9 minutes, 18.3 seconds, and that's the mark everybody else is going to have to beat. One of those 13 other drivers that's going to take a shot at it, Rob Peterson. But this spin at Engineer's Corner would turn him around, and a 10-minute, 10-second run would not do it for him today.
The next driver to take a crack at Gay Smith's time was veteran from Colorado Springs, Harry Wick. When you see Harry head up the mountain here, there's a good look at Harry. Nice and smooth as he heads up the mountain. Harry would end up in a time of 9:46.9 seconds.
And remember, 9:18 was the time to beat. Randy Schranz from Colorado Springs also took a stab at it, but he would fall short. Randy would turn a time of 9:33.8 seconds.
The next driver up the mountain to take a crack was Lynn Cowan in his Ford, and Lynn has been around a lot of years, came pretty close a couple years ago. This year wasn't quite enough, 9:39.3.
Then there was Brad Craig. Craig from Poncha Springs, Colorado, turned in a time of 9:53.7. So again, Gay Smith was okay.
You're looking at Steve Gegline there, whose car is smoking, and smoking pretty good there. 1991 Rookie of the Year, Steve would finish at 9:45.5.
That brought us to fourth fastest qualifier, Roger Ward. Now, Roger was 6 seconds quicker than Gay Smith at Glen Cove, but by the time he would get to the top, he would be 7 seconds slower, turning in a time of 9:25.8. So disappointment for Roger Ward. Then there was Roger Mears Jr. Now, Roger qualified third at 5:30.39, but would run into mechanical problems and would not finish the race course.
You're looking at the fastest qualifier in the stock car division. Now, Gay, you made an unusual choice. Normally, the fastest guy goes last. You went first. Why was that?
Well, the weather looked really threatening, and if it moved in on us, it could really cause for some slow times if it got cloudy and foggy. And I just thought, it was clear right now. I'll take my chances. I hope it was a good decision. The course was pretty slippery, and if it gets swept off, then I may have made a bad choice.
Well, we're about to find out, because here comes defending champion Bobby Register, his Chevrolet Camaro to the line. And Bobby from Florissant, Colorado, the second fastest qualifier, right behind Gay Smith.
And as we look up in the skies above us, we see that although the skies are gray and foreboding, the weather hasn't come as Gay Smith hoped it would. So I really think Bobby Register has a pretty good shot at winning this, because the track, I think, will get faster the more the cars go up it, as long as weather doesn't move in.
Now remember, 14 other cars have been on the race course. In fact, look at, you can see how some of the marbles have been brushed off. Here we are at the speed trap, exactly the same speed as Gay Smith, and watch as he flies by.
You see some pebbles come up, hit our camera there. You see Bobby using up all of the race course here. He's using it all up, but he is very, very smooth. It looks like he's got a very good run going, and the split time will tell us how good that run is. 5:21.5, that's 8 seconds better than Roger Warden, who in turn was 6 seconds better than Gay Smith. So Bobby is looking really good in the first half of the race.
We're talking about a 14-second difference at the midpoint, and here comes Bobby Register. Can he make it 2 in a row? He said before the race that it's always harder to repeat than it is to win it the first time, because everybody's gunning for you.
Yeah, you can see right here, Bobby goes a little wide right there, comes up close to the snowbank, but he has a lot of experience here, so he knows how far he can push it. He was the open wheel champ, former Rookie of the Year, and is the defending stock car champion.
Just a couple of turns, and he'll look at the checkered flag. Oh, he's going to shatter the time of Gay Smith. Bobby Register at 8:59.3 in an incredible run, wins Super Stock Car by 19.9 seconds. Roger Wharton in third, Randy Schranz and Lynn Cowan round out the top 5. Let's go to victory lane and hear from our winner.
All right, you're looking at the winner of the stock car division, Bobby Register, and a back-to-back performance for you. How was it out there?
Oh, it was really slick. It was loose, and I just tried to find the best groove I could. Just want to dedicate this one to my crew. They worked night and day, all night last night. We didn't fire it up till this morning. Greatest crew around. I love them all. Just very happy right now. Very happy.
Now, you've been around the peak for a while. Have you ever seen a week as wild as this one?
No. We're breaking all kinds of records this week, and it wasn't against the clock.
Tell me a little bit about the run up there. Any problems at all?
No major problems. The car ran good. I bobbled a couple times in the corners when it loaded up, and I made a few small mistakes, but I didn't lose more than maybe 1 or 2 seconds with what I had to work with, so things went well.
Looking for a three-peat in 96?
Yeah, we'll be back with the JB Isaac Gold Rush Camaro for sure. We'll be back.
Thanks, Bobby.
So the gamble did not pay off for Gay Smith. He'll finish second. What about Paul Dallenbach and his chances in open wheel? Stay with us, we'll find out. And then, of course, there's the unlimited showdown as King of the Mountain. Rod Millen will go up against Nobuhiro Tajima. It's all going to happen here at the Chevrolet Pikes Peak Auto Hill Climb at Colorado Springs. Don't go away. Along with Bart Kendall, I'm Marty Reed at the Chevrolet Pikes Peak Auto Hill Climb, and you are looking from the starting line area towards the summit, 14,110 feet away. And higher up from the mountain, that is the Continental Divide, separating east from west. And yes, the rains have come in, they've gone, they've come back again. Just depends on where you happen to be on the race course. Now, we cannot show you everything, but we want to show you all the highlights that we possibly can. This is Graham Lord. He's commonly known as Mad Dog, and you can see why. That is a high-powered quad.
And here you're taking a look at Jeff Swart. Here's a guy who's really taken a liking to this mountain as he heads up the mountain in his Porsche, and he would win this class for the second year in a row.
And a time of 9 minutes 40.3 seconds from Woody Creek, Colorado. Then there's Teruaki Kobayashi. He wins the Pikes Peak Open Division. He's from Saitama, Japan. He covered the distance in just over 9 minutes, doing a spectacular job with that car.
And there's a familiar name here, Clint Vaschholz, and he is the son of Leonard Vaschholz. He is the winner of the Open Pro in 9:17.1. That's the second victory in a row for Clint.
Then we turn our attention to the quads. Mark Earhart, as you can see, the clouds rolling in again. 9:28.9 was his winning time. And take a look at this crash. That is James Patterson from Denver, Colorado. And it looked like he was going to be seriously hurt, but watch this. He gets back on his quad, starts the machine, and listen to the crowd as he gets underway. He would finish last, but he would finish in his division here at the Chevrolet Pikes Peak Hill Climb.
Now here's something you do not see every day, and to our knowledge, this might be the first time in history this has happened. You should see David Bedore in the white car coming up from Chanhassen, Minnesota, moving up on Tetsuya Mori from Chiba, Japan, and watch as you come out of this corner, you're going to see a first here on the mountain as Bedore actually passes Mori from Japan. And something to note here is Mori doesn't know that Bedore is there. You're not used to looking in your mirrors. You don't think anyone's going to be behind you. They split you by 2 minutes. But right here as he heads into this corner, Bedore puts his Porsche in there, and you can hear the fans. They love that pass.
And the key there is 2 minutes. That's the starting differential. Here's Sid Compton, and this truck, that's right, your eyes are not being deceived. That is a Cummins diesel, the first time ever on the mountain, and Sid covered the distance in 11 minutes, 35 seconds, and look at the crowd everywhere he went. He was the talk of the hill climb. Who knows, maybe we'll see a division of these trucks before too long. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll turn our attention to open wheel at the Chevrolet Pikes Peak Auto Hill Climb. Back at the Chevrolet Pikes Peak Auto Hill Climb, I'm Marty Reed along with Bart Kendall, and you're looking at Gary Lee Cadoyer, top qualifier in the open wheel division. Here's what it's all about.
Basically, the open wheel is pretty simple. Open wheels means no fenders. You have 2 types of cars, the newer IndyCar style and the older Wells Coyote, such as the one Cadoyer is in.
So as we get ready to get into the race action here, let's show you highlights of some of the earlier competitors in this division. That's Paul Shaver. Now, Paul did not make a qualifying run, but he did finish at 9 minutes, 24 seconds. He's from Colorado Springs.
There you have, you see a push given to Ted Markovich. He did not qualify and he did not finish the race either, so definitely a long week for Ted.
And he had one of the old midget-style cars and just had a real difficult time making it run up the mountain. Now here's Tom Topping, and yes, that is hail that you are seeing. As we told you, the weather can change here literally in minutes. He's from California in Los Angeles. He finished at 9:48.8.
There's a look at a past champion, David Donner, and David is driving what I talked about. That's the newer IndyCar style cars, and David finished in 909.1.
And that IndyCar chassis just did not do very well no matter who was driving it for the most part, because here's Keith Harper in a more traditional Coyote Wells, and he was 6 seconds quicker than David Donner. Harper from Manitou Springs, he finished at 903.6. That now brings us to Wally Dallenbach. Wally making his first ever appearance at the hill climb. Wally from Greensboro, North Carolina, did not make a qualifying run. They were changing motors, and they were thrashing like crazy. Now, we're on board with Wally as he takes the green flag and is underway on his run. First time, then remember that he is going to see the course from start to finish.
Now, that might faze a lot of drivers, but a guy like Wally Dallenbach has a tremendous amount of experience. He's driven Winston Cup, he's driven Indy cars, so this is just another step for him. But I tell you, he didn't get a lot of practice time, had a lot of problems during the week. He's in his brother's car from last year. That's the Chevrolet that Paul Dallenbach drove last year, and you can see him really working hard. He is aggressive on the bottom half of the mountain, which is good for Wally.
Let's just ride along for a bit and enjoy it. Whoa! I don't think that one was playing, Bart.
No, what you can see, what really impresses me is how smooth Wally is. You see, there's not a lot of extra movement with his hands. All that racing experience on different types of tracks and different types of surfaces, I think, has really helped him.
Back at the starting line, brother Paul Dallenbach gets final instructions from Chief Steward Phil Layton. Paul from Basalt, Colorado. He is the former king of the mountain, and now he wants to reclaim the throne. And we are going to be on board with a helmet cam. And so you're going to get to see exactly the kind of vibration that these guys go through. And he's already hitting that rev limiter.
Yeah, you can see how the camera is bouncing up and down. That's the view that Paul sees through his helmet. Now, a little bit about the car Paul's driving in. This is a Ray Hall Hogan True Sports Indy car. That's right. This is a car that has raced on the IndyCar circuit. It's powered by a Zach Speed engine, which Paul told me. He went to Ford. He said, we want to make a run up the mountain. And Lee Morris from Ford said, okay, I'll help you out. I'll give you 5 of our old Zach Speed engines.
And right now, look how wide he is. And unfortunately, this is the wrong year, apparently, because through practice and qualifying, the Indy cars have not done as well as the Coyote Wells chassis. 107 miles an hour for Wally Dallenbach.
Yeah, just a brief thing on why the Wells cars are working a little bit better today. I think they're set up to run on a softer track. A harder packed track is better suited to the Indy cars. This track is not like that, so you see these guys are sliding all over the place. You see Wally really having trouble gaining control there.
And look at the hailstones coming down. So now we're starting to see the weather play another role. And remember, Wally Dallenbach has yet to make it to the top. Are you worried?
Yeah, this is the first time, and I haven't seen a lot of it, which is the biggest problem. I'm pretty confident the car is going to make it, but I'm pretty confident with the road as far as Glen Cove. But then from Glen Cove up, I don't know it real well, so it's going to be pretty exciting from where I'm sitting to kind of learn as you go.
Remember, the shortened course may be a blessing for Wally Dallenbach because there are normally 156 turns to negotiate. And those hailstones, they hurt. I remember old Louis Unser back in the old days. He ran and had welts on his arms from those hailstones. Now, here's the map. Wally Dallenbach approaching Glen Cove. Paul Dallenbach is approaching the halfway picnic grounds. This is where we find out what the top speeds are at 121 miles an hour. Get on the brakes.
Yeah, Paul has a good run going so far. And now, although we're starting to see a little bit of rain at this portion of the racetrack, you can see from the onboard camera as Paul's head is jarred right against the roll bar there. But little does Paul know that up only 1,000 feet, where his brother Wally has been just a few minutes before, it is starting to snow. So the conditions are rapidly changing. And for a guy like Paul, who hasn't had a lot of practice on the mountain due to mechanical problems, it should be interesting. We'll be back to show you how Paul Dallenbach finished at the Chevrolet Pikes Peak Hill Climb.
Back at the Chevrolet Pikes Peak Auto Hill Climb, along with Bart Kendall, I'm Marty Reed, and that looks like it might be just for fun. Actually, those little snow castles help protect you from the wind, as it can whip up to 40 miles an hour. Approaching Glen Cove, Wally Dallenbach. Paul Dallenbach is now to the ski area, and Stan Cosson is at the starting line getting ready to go. And here we are on board with Wally Dallenbach. He'll be the split time coming up on the right, the time to beat of Keith Harper, 5:26.5, and oh boy, he has shattered that.
Yeah, this might have been even a surprise to Wally because he, like we've said, he hasn't had a clean run up the mountain all day, but Wally's a competitor, and he might even tell you that his alter ego Super Dave might have jumped in the seat for a time or two.
Stan Cosson. This is one of the Coyote Wells chassis. This is the chassis of choice this weekend. Stan from Parker, Colorado, qualified second at 5 minutes, 10.12 seconds. And Stan, whoa, little sideways there. This is a big opportunity for him to do well in open wheel.
Yeah, Stan has been around for a long time. You can see the difference in the cars. The Wells Coyote are a little more upright. They have that wing sticking out. They're a little more compact. But I tell you, the road conditions we're having today, the Wells Coyotes are faring very, very well. They're set up a little bit softer. They work through the corners a little better.
Time to beat at Glen Cove. It's not going to happen for Paul Dallenbach. He's almost 2 seconds slower than Brother Wally. Oh, and smoke coming from the back of that Ford power plant.
And look how the back end twitches as Paul heads up into that corner. These things are highly tuned, but you really have to stay on top of these newer style Indy cars. Here's once again onboard camera, and you see the view that Paul has. It's getting a little grayer there, a little more difficult to see as he's working his way up to the top of the racetrack. Oh, you see that big bump there? That's what Paul is feeling inside the car.
And look at the raindrops still on the lens. Now, let's move everybody up into position. Wally Dallenbach's in the W's. Paul has just passed Glen Cove. Stan Costin is at halfway picnic grounds. That's where we're going to find out how fast the 1983 Rookie of the Year is. 108. That is much slower. But remember, they're getting through the corners a little bit better.
Yeah, they don't look as fast on the straightaway, and they're not. But the way they get through the corners, there's 156 of these corners, so you need to get through them fast as well.
Back on board with Wally Dallenbach. Wally, don't go straight. You better turn right. Thank you very much. My heart will continue to beat. Oh, he slowed down there quite a bit.
Yeah, it looks like he even bogged it almost in low gear there, and I think that's part of the problem of getting through the corners with the stiffer style Indy cars.
But look at the road. That may be another factor. I mean, I noticed some wet spots there that looked like there were hailstones that had already fallen. Now, here, the hail has stopped momentarily, and Wally, again, this is how quickly this race course can change. It's very hard to describe to you that literally 5 turns later. Whoa, look at some tire smoke there.
Yeah, and that's the tough part of the thing that these drivers are facing right here, is they're approaching a corner not knowing if it's going to be handling the same or it's going to have the same road conditions as in corners past. You can see Wally's hands there really moving, really working a lot harder on the upper half than he was on the bottom portion.
And at 8 minutes, 41.7 seconds, he takes over the lead from Keith Harper. And look at Gary Lee Canoyer. He is going through the race course in his mind, the concentration of the man who wants to take over the open wheel championship. Canoyer from Pismo Beach, California, now coming to the starting line. Whoa, he got very sideways. He knows this is his race to win or his race to lose.
Now, Gary Lee Canoyer had a 23-second margin qualifying. You can see him really working the car through here. He knows this is his best chance he's ever had to win at Pikes Peak. And there's an example of how on Gary Lee is. He's hooking that wheel around the corner. The first guy we've seen do that.
So Gary Lee Canoyer is at halfway picnic ground. Paul Dallenbach in the W's, and Stan Costin approaching Glen Cove. We'll find out if the man who finished second in 1993 is going to be the quickest at the halfway point. No way. He is 11 seconds almost behind Wally Dallenbach. And look, there's some hailstones there coming down. And look at this. That is hail, and some of it, I mean, looks like it's flying horizontally. The wind is really kicking up. And Paul Dallenbach, look, you can see them lying on the race course part.
Yeah, this is unbelievable. I mean, Paul, when he took off, the sun was shining down below. The course was dry. Now look at him. You can see the tracks there as he's pitching the hail out of the way. And you can hear there's something different. Look at Paul is slowing down. There's something definitely wrong there. He is barely moving up here to the top of the race course. What a disappointment for Paul.
I don't know if there was something electrical or if fuel flow. Let's listen. Look at the hailstones just falling and hitting both Paul and the car. And oh my, that delay has cost him any chance of winning this race, as he will cross the finish line, but well behind Brother Wally at 8:59.7. Gary Lee Canoyer, 117 miles an hour. That is fast in a Wells Coyote.
That sure is. That was 9 miles an hour faster than Stan Costin, a little slower than Wally, but remember, the Wells Coyotes are a little better in the corner. Here's a look at the map. Stan Costin approaching Devil's Playground, Gary Lee Canoyer approaching the ski area.
So let's check in with Stan Costin as he is almost to the top of the mountain. Now look at how quickly the hailstorm has subsided. There's still some residue remaining on the track, but Stan Costin, the time to beat. He could take over the lead. Wally Dallenbach's time on the left. Stan Costin at 8:41. No, just misses by 0.3 of a second. Stan Costin is now back in second place. Here we go with Gary Lee Canoyer. Oh my, over 10 seconds quicker than Wally Dallenbach Jr. as he has perfect road conditions here at Glen Cove. But take a look at this cloud layer. The hail has stopped up above at the W's, but look what's happening down in the midsection of the race course. It is raining. That's how quickly the weather has been changing all week long. In fact, a veteran of this hill climb, Al Unser, talked about it.
This is the worst I've ever seen it up here. I've always, seen snow here at 16 Mile like this, but never the ice on the road like this. And during practice, during the week, I've never seen them call the practice because of too much rain or too much snow. It's been a funny July 4th this time. They need to warm the place up a little bit.
I think about 5,000 people will agree with you there, Al. Here is Gary Lee Canoyer. He won this division back in 1981. He looks to be on his way to claiming the championship here in 1995. Around the next to last corner, and Gary Lee throttled down. No problems here. Look at how quickly the hail has cleared off the road. And a little bobble there by Gary Lee, but it's not going to make a difference. Look at the margin as he has a time of 8 minutes and 7.5 seconds as Gary Lee Canoyer takes the championship in open wheel by 34 seconds over Wally Dallenbach Jr. Wally has to be Rookie of the Year, though. That is a great run for him here at the Chevrolet Pikes Peak Hill Climb. We get a chance now to catch up with our winner. Here is Gary Lee with Bart.
Made it to the top. How was your run?
It was all right. We had a real good run going and made it up here. That's the main thing.
Now, we haven't got the official times, but the word we're getting is that you won.
Well, we've got some backup timing, and that's all we're going off of right now. So we'll wait for the official, though, before we start doing anything.
Yeah, you celebrating, huh?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, the times are official. We're just having a little communication problem getting them to the finish line area. You saw him take a fan out of the Suzuki of Nobuhiro Tajima. Well, the reason is they don't need it. The temperatures are so cool, and this is an unlimited division. All you need is lightweight. Look at the concentration on Rod Millen's eyes as he's ready in the unlimited showdown. We'll show it to you next, right here from Colorado Springs, the Chevrolet Pikes Peak Auto Hill Climb. Back at the Chevrolet Pikes Peak Auto Hill Climb, you're looking at Rod Millen as he makes final preparations for his run at the mountain. And this is what Unlimited's all about.
Basically, Unlimited is that. You have to meet all safety specifications. Other than that, bring it as fast as you can.
And they have shaved about 350 pounds off of that Toyota from last year. And this is the Suzuki driven by Nobuhiro Tajima. Now, Tajima stands over 6'5". They call him the Monster in Japan. That's his nickname. And he says that's good. It means Tom Cruise.
Well, he doesn't exactly look like Tom Cruise, but he sure drives a lot better than him than Tom Cruise did in Days of Thunder. This guy is quite a driver, I tell you. He has been fast here in years past. He actually held the overall hill record at one point for about 10 minutes a couple years ago, but Paul Dallenbach beat him out. So this guy can drive, and I think it's going to be a good battle with he and Rod Millen.
Back at the starting line, Rod Millen in that 2.1-liter turbocharged modified GTP motor. Rod from Newport Beach, California, as he is ready to go. And it is down to these two racers, the final two, and we're on board right out the nose. And hold on, because this is going to be a thrill.
I tell you, just sitting here in my chair, I am scared. This is unbelievable. Look how fast he is going. This is a purpose-built race car. It is built strictly for the purpose of winning at Pikes Peak and conquering the overall mountain.
Now remember, this has got the modified version of the old GTP power plant that Dan Gurney had in his Toyotas and a modified GTP wing. I mean, talk about purpose-built. You're right on target.
Yeah, this motor, we're not exactly sure exactly how many horsepower, but it's probably 700 plus, and you figure a car that only weighs 1,900 pounds, that is something.
He qualified first, 4 minutes, 38.62 seconds, and through Engineers Corner safely.
And here you see the speed trap here. This is Tajima coming through at 119 miles an hour, just about as fast as the open wheel division cars were going. And Tajima is really moving a pretty smooth run. Hasn't really hung it out yet, but he looks very in control.
Back on board with Rod Millen as we are approaching halfway picnic grounds. We'll get an idea. Remember, 119 for Nobuhiro, 126 for Rod Millen.
Rod is really flying there, and I know that Rod really wanted to break the 10-minute barrier. Last year, after coming so close, his main goal in coming up here, and Toyota's goal, was to conquer the 10-minute barrier. That's something that they've really wanted to do for a long time. And we asked Rod earlier, he was disappointed that they were not running to the top.
No, not at all. You know, we've always known, this is Pikes Peak. All the elements are going to be thrown at us. We've seen it happen in the past. Not as bad as this. But no, we always knew that the car will go under 10 minutes if we have as good a conditions as we had in 94. No, it's not disappointing to them at all. They're thrilled that we qualified fastest, and, race day will try our best effort there as well.
Well, we could get technical and say he will break the 10-minute mark. Of course, just about everybody is, because we're running 3 miles shorter. Boy, he has got this car flying. Now, Nobuhiro Tajima is approaching Glen Cove. We're going to get a split time, and Rod Millen is heading for the ski area. And here comes Tajima. So this will be the time to beat. And he stops the clock at 4:43.2. That's a twin-engine Suzuki. And they have brought a version of that car the last 3 years. This one they think is their best. We'll find out at the Chevrolet Pikes Peak Auto Hill Climb. Stay with us. Marty Reed and Bart Kendall back with you at the Chevrolet Pikes Peak Auto Hill Climb. You're looking down on Nobuhiro Tajima, a two-time winner in this division, as he makes his way in the lower portion of the W's.
Yeah, Tajima is really working hard here. You can see the change in color down there as the track conditions are still changing. Here we have an update. Tajima approaching Devil's Playground, and Rod Millen coming up to Glen Cove, which we should see in just a moment here.
And here he comes. The time to beat on the left is Nobuhiro Tajima's. He's going to do it by how much? 5.4 seconds. So a 5.4 second lead for Rod Millen.
Now, Rod, sometimes these guys know how they're doing in the car, sometimes they don't. Each team has their own form of timing, have guys rating to them, but the only official time that counts is the one that the hill climb keeps.
Let's sit back. You are heading for, oh my, that is nothing but a drop off into oblivion with Rod Millen.
Now, Rod, that would scare a lot of people, but Rod Millen is probably one of the most experienced guys you're ever going to find at Pikes Peak. He raced in rally events in Southeast Asia, New Zealand, Australia. He's also a 3-time champion of the Mickey Thompson Stadium off-road races. So this guy has a world of experience.
On Ragged Edge, that's the name of the stretch here, and you are doing well over 100 miles an hour as Rod Millen makes his way up the mountain back to Nobuhiro Tajima. He is at the top portion of the W's. He is on what appears to be a very clean run. This is going to be extremely interesting. This is the best this Suzuki has run all week long.
Tajima looks very good here, but remember, the overall hill record holder and champion and heavy favorite coming in was Rod Millen with all that experience. So it's going to take an absolute perfect run for Tajima to even come close.
We're going to find out. The time to beat will come up on the right. Tajima's going to set it. 7 minutes. We're going to be under 8 for sure. 7:53 flat for Nobuhiro Tajima. So now the pressure is on Rod Millen. Now remember, he had a 5.5 second lead at Glen Cove.
Oh, that is scary right there.
I'll tell you what, I got to hold my breath for a bit. I'm just going to watch.
And listen to how smooth Rod is as he heads up to this corner. You can hear him real smooth as he works his way up through the gears. You can hear on the throttle, very smooth in and out of the corners.
See how high we are? Those are clouds right out the right window of Rod's Toyota.
That's why they call this race the race to the clouds. Now I want to point out something on Rod's driving style. See how he flicks the car to the outside of the track and then corrects back to the inside? And look how smooth the car slides all the way around the corner. That is a style characteristic of very successful rally drivers, something that Rod has brought to the mountain.
And remember, this is an all-wheel drive Toyota. The time to be on left side, 7:53. Rod Millen, is he going to do it? No! Millen, by 0.7 of a second, has been upset by Nobuhiro Tajima. Oh my, I don't think anybody this week expected this result. And remember, because of the change in the finish line, these guys don't know who won yet. Look at Rod Millen with his hands up. He's looking at Tajima. They both think that they did very well. Millen with a smile on his face, Tajima with a smile on his. They don't know who won yet, but stay with us. We'll tell them when we come back to the Chevrolet Pikes Peak Auto Hill Climb. Today's ESPN Speed World event has been brought to you by Chevrolet. One car company has won more races in the history of NASCAR. Genuine Chevrolet.
And it is official. Nobuhiro Tajima is the overall champion. You can see the well-wishers greeting him. Tajima, who always has a smile on his face, has a reason to smile. However, one guy who's not smiling is Rod Millen.
I think the look on your face says it all right now. Would stunned be appropriate?
A little surprised in the results. We had ourselves 14 seconds ahead at Glen Cove. Really good run. The Toyota ran just great. It was my cleanest run that I've ever had up there. So, yeah, I'm a little surprised, you know. Maybe Tajima just pulled one out that he's never done before.
Oh, the disappointment that Rod Millen must feel. But I tell you, it was only a 5-second gap at the halfway point. Millen's crew told him it was 14, and I think Rod might have let up a little bit on the top half of the course, allowing Tajima to sneak one out. We had Marty talk with Tajima.
Congratulations on a fantastic win.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very, very happy. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Describe the run for us. Did anything go wrong?
Yeah, I think everything okay. Yeah, I have some problem, but my engineer and the mechanics, many people, the very, very hard work and set up car, and I'm very happy. Yeah.
So you said you had a little bit of problem with the engine?
No, powertrain kit. Powertrain.
The powertrain?
Yeah, yes.
Well, obviously not enough. You won by, what, 7/10 of a second?
Oh.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy. Thank you.
It'd be hard to find a happier guy anywhere in the world than Nobuhiro Tajima right now. And I tell you, speaking of worldwide, the prestige this event has is going to be heard all the way over to Japan, where Tajima will truly be a national hero.
We have more racing action for you tomorrow on ESPN from Pikes Peak. The IMSA Bridgestone Supercar Series will make its first run up the mountain at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. These guys usually run on pavement. It's the first time ever the series has run on dirt. You know, years from now, there'll be an asterisk in the record book when you look in it. It'll signify the year that the course was shortened. But for those of us who witnessed this event, it will signify something else. It will signify the superhuman effort put on by everyone over 6 days of what can only be called pure hell.